Hey everybody, off the mic sports network here. We're gonna do something a little bit different. I've been doing a lot of wrestling content, but something popped in my head. We're 4 games in to the NBA Finals. Game 5 is going to be on Monday night from Oklahoma City. There was a clip that made it across the social media sphere. It was Stephen A. Smith playing solitaire during a live NBA Finals basketball game. Mind you, he is one of the central voices of not only ESPN's NBA coverage of ESPN's general sports discussion with First Take. He's the highest paid talent that they have there. He's one of the highest paid talents in sports media. And this isn't a Stephen A. Smith discussion more so than what Stephen A. Smith was caught doing is a microcosm of the coverage of the NBA on ESPN. And it's gotten a lot of flack for a long period of time. And I knew walking into this series between Indiana and Oklahoma City that it was going to be really a tough sell for the NBA to, get, you know, the average fan to rally around this series, even though I said from jump that this could be the best basketball series that the NBA could get, and it would actually be a win for the NBA if they could actually have people willing to talk about this. But we're more focused on Kevin Durant, and we're more focused on Giannis Antetokounmpo. We're more focused on, we're more focused on the Knicks head coaching search rather than, it's a 2-2 series with the MVP of the NBA and one of the exciting young teams in the NBA in the Oklahoma City Thunder, as well as the Indiana Pacers, who have just ran roughshod through the Eastern Conference. They had 2 5-game series wins and they won in 6 games over the Knicks. And it's just, Indiana's a lot of fun. But to see one of the central voices of this, and then this also goes to the broadcast and the presentation. And listen, I don't hate Richard Jefferson or Doris Burke. I actually, think that they're very knowledgeable about the game of basketball. But everything about the ESPN NBA product feels completely lackluster. And then you've got Kendrick Perkins and Stephen A. Smith just yelling. Bob Myers, who's probably the most knowledgeable guy on that panel, trying his best to get a thought in. And God bless Malika Andrews, who's trying her best, gets thrust into a spot in her mid-20s and has really just tried to make everything work since, the departure of Rachel Nichols and Maria Taylor back about 5 years ago. So the ESPN NBA product has really fallen apart in a large chunk of the last, 10 to 15 years. Because if you guys remember, watching the NBA Finals used to be really cool because you had the trophy on the court, you had the intros, it felt like a big event, like everything felt bigger, like the way things were talked about, the presentation of it, and it felt like a big series. And I give a credit to buddy of mine, Aaron Torres, Aaron Torres Sports Podcast. He's got a YouTube channel and everything. One of my great friends in this industry, does great work at Fox Sports Radio, covers college basketball. He put out social media, and it was kind of a comment to what, I don't know who it was, but basically was saying that, hey, man, I watch college baseball and I watch, the NBA, and man, College World Series just feels like a much bigger deal from a presentation, storytelling, and everything. And Aaron brought this up and said, man, that he's right, because it's just like the NBA really feels so small for such a big series with arguably one of the biggest leagues in all of North American sports. Like, it's the NBA has always been but you go back years to even as far back as when Michael Jordan was playing, they were getting ratings off the wazoo because it's just like the way you talked about the players. It wasn't just about market size. There was great players, there was dynasties, and it's great that there's been parity in the NBA, but I feel like ESPN is just looking for a storyline that'll generate interest, and it'll probably make it a more presentable series. I'm here to tell you guys, if the New York Knicks had gotten to the NBA Finals, this series would be over by now. It would have been a 4. Maybe they would be going to Game 5 in Oklahoma City. The fact that Indiana is in this series has made it infinitely more interesting. And then when you have video of Stephen A. Smith, your central figure to NBA coverage and one of your central figures for the sports content program on your product, being filmed this is what social media is, being filmed playing solitaire during an NBA Finals game, a competitive NBA Finals game. And then he denies it and then gets community noted. That really is not a good reflection of where ESPN is in terms of their media rights. At some point, I really hope that NBC is able to get, the media rights for, or at least be able to get their chance to cover an NBA finals and to be able to put that on there. Hell, Amazon Prime, I would be totally fine with that because I'm starting to get sick and tired of every single fucking year where the NBA has found more ways to make their product just feel insignificantly small. Last year, Boston was so much better than Dallas, and you had stars in there that kind of helped the series. The ratings weren't helped out, but it didn't help that, hey, your broadcasting crew, Mike Breen, is trying to carry a subpar announce team. Like, why did they get rid of Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson? That always felt like a big deal when they were broadcasting it. Like, whenever you had, Marv Albert, when he would call the NBA finals, like that was a big deal when it was on NBC, or even in the early stages, like of ESPN, like, you had Hubie Brown, you had, you had, I mean, Doc Rivers was actually a pretty good commentator. He's not as good a head coach, but it's just, man, seeing the Stephen A. Smith video and just seeing the coverage of the way that this NBA product has been presented, like Kendrick Perkins, what the fuck are we doing? Like, what the fuck are we doing? Kendrick Perkins was a glorified I mean, he was a starting center in the NBA, but he was never thought of as a superstar. And all he does is just change his mind on every single take and just shouts and just throws the most asinine opinions out there. Stephen A. Smith will throw hot takes out there. The only guy on that panel, I mean, Malika Andrews is a host, and she does her best to kind of get everybody from point A to point B, but she's really just there to kind of get everything in and out of segments, and she's really good at it. But Bob Myers, for God's sake, Bob Myers won 4 championships as a fucking general manager of maybe one of the greatest dynasties of the modern era, and they don't even let him talk. Tim Legler, who I think is one of the great basketball guys, should be calling games or should be on the coverage of this thing. He's doing post-game stuff with Scott Van Pelt. ESPN has so many of their priorities in the wrong areas. Like, next year, I'm going to get frustrated when they cover the Stanley Cup final because it's going to feel, and outside of, the cool entrance theme and the intro theme for the Stanley Cup final, there's nothing really good about ESPN's NHL product. Like, they do a much better job of making the College World Series feel like a bigger deal than the NBA finals. And the NBA is getting paid a whole hell of a lot more money than the NCAA is for the College World Series. Like, seeing Stephen A. Smith not paying attention to a live NBA Finals game and playing fucking solitaire is everything that you need to know about where this company's priorities are. They want bigger storylines. Maybe if you covered the league in a more effective way, your ratings would be up, and this wouldn't be about Indiana and Oklahoma City, okay? This would be about, hey, this is Tyrese Halliburton, a great player. This is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the MVP of the league and one of the best players in the NBA for the last 4 or 5 seasons in the NBA Finals. Oklahoma City, one of the youngest teams to ever reach the NBA Finals. Instead, we're focusing on foul grifting, and we're focusing on why the Knicks didn't make the playoffs and why they're trying to go after every head coach under the sun. Like, who the fuck cares? You've got 2 great teams in an NBA Finals. That's basically a 3-game series. And one of your lead analysts on this thing is playing fucking solitaire during it. What are we doing, man? Seriously, I am imploring ESPN. Please put at least forth a better effort into what, and give people a reason to care. Because the reason why the NBA ratings have not been good for years is because ESPN has continually found ways to make the finals feel more insignificant. And as a guy who has been watching the NBA for his entire life, I've never walked into an NBA finals feeling just, less fulfilled in terms of the presentation. The basketball has been unbelievable. This is one of the best NBA finals that I can this was probably one of the best NBA finals, I would say, going back to I would say going back to 2016 when it was Cavs Warriors. That's really the last, I could say Toronto and Golden State, but there was injuries littered up that series. The Miami, the Lakers series had the COVID thing to it. I honestly, Phoenix and Milwaukee was a really good series too. So maybe since then, this is probably one of the better played basketball series And even some of those games, Phoenix and Milwaukee were kind of blowouts. Some of the stuff in the Cavs and and Warrior series were kind of blowouts too. But in terms of competition level, outside of one game, game two, this has been a fabulous, fabulous series. And it should feel like a much bigger deal than what ESPN is putting forth in terms of their effort, in terms of production, in terms of like, analysis, in terms of just everything that goes into it. And I don't blame Mike Breen. Mike Breen is one of the goats of broadcasting. I just think Doris Burke and Richard Jefferson are kind of miscast in that commentary role. They made it clear that hey, they didn't want to keep Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson around. They should up that booth in terms of commentary, and there's reports that they're going to change that. And then obviously inside the NBA is going to become an ESPN thing next year, but I don't know how that's going to look. It's just man, I got really frustrated seeing that social media clip of Stephen A. Smith and then him in full blown denial mode and getting community noted. That's everything you need to know about the ESPN NBA product right now. And the College World Series is going on. It feels like a much bigger deal for a much lesser event. I mean, I'll say this: College World Series needs to be covered and needs to be in the mainstream a lot more because that's a lot of fun. Omaha is a really special place, and it's one of those places where like hey, there's a destination. That's what I love about the men's and women's College World Series is there's a destination to it. It's not just like a single rotating site every single year. So it feels like an event. So why can't ESPN put forth the same effort in their coverage of those events and then do that with the NBA? I don't understand it. It's like it's like they paid for the money, they paid for the rights, and then hey, just sort of coasted on their coasted on everything, and just are trying to mailing it in. It's really ridiculous. So anyway, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys soon. Bye bye.